back to Wichita's Biz That Is on KGPT. I'm Tim Witzman, President of Wichita Independent Business Association, and with me Dr. Rick Kellerman from KU Med. We've been talking about the experiences of the students. We had one of those students at a luncheon where we had you speak. She was so impressive that there were people 60 years old standing there saying, I'm getting rid of my doctor. I'm going to this one.
And she still has 5 years to go. So,
what do you think? What is different? Are doctors coming out now different than they were?
That's a great question. I don't know. There's a lot of discussion about Generation X and Y and Z and that sort of thing. I'm not sure that there's any real difference. We have really outstanding medical students. They're very smart. They're very conscientious. They're interested in taking care of patients. They study hard. And I'm not so sure that they're any different than medical students in my era. I know there's a lot of people my age that say, oh, they don't want to work as hard, or they're interested in, all sorts of different things. I'm not sure fundamentally that they're any different at all. I got to tell you, we've got great medical students, great residents in Wichita. We're really fortunate that we've been able to recruit these people because we're not like Colorado that has mountains. We're not like the coast that have seashores. And so what we have to sell is the training that we provide here in Wichita.
Well, one of the points, I think, is that this is so important for the state of Kansas. You talked about the family practitioners. Can you talk about the importance of this school to the whole state and
Absolutely.
what it provides?
We look at this school as not being a Wichita school. We look at this school as being 400 miles long and 200 miles wide. Many of our graduates go to rural areas of Kansas. In fact, if we had a map of Kansas, we could show that almost every county has a graduate.
And without them, I wonder who would be there.
Well, exactly. That's part of the reason that this school is here, and it's just amazing. And these are great docs that go out there. Then at KU, all of our fourth-year medical students are required to take a rural rotation. And so they do a rural rotation in Tribune and Smith Center and Ark City and Hiawatha. And it's oftentimes a rotation that people go, oh, I don't want to go out there for a month and I have to leave my house and that sort of thing. They all come back saying that was the best rotation of medical school. They're treated well in the small towns. They get to put all of the things that they've learned in their first 3.5 years of medical school together. They're treated like a real doctor. The local physicians know their patients, so they can give them a little leeway and really apply the trade, so to speak. And so the rural rotation in KU has been going on for more than 50 years, and it's one of our most important rotations.
One of the things, it's not just that delivery of those services around the state and actually helping out particularly smaller communities, but there's an economic impact of having the medical school here.
Oh, absolutely. There's an economic impact of the medical school. Think about this now. Every year in Wichita, at least 50 medical students move to Wichita. Many of them have families and kids. We have 90 residents that move to Wichita every year. Many of the graduates of our residency programs stay here in Wichita. That builds the medical community. And then we have a very high rate of people that stay in Kansas in rural areas. And so if they have a sick patient and they did their training here and they know how the hospitals work and who the consultants are, they're referring those patients back here to Wichita. And so I think it's important to keep our rural communities healthy, economically and medically.
I don't want to do too much of a digression, but I know that just this week the feds were making some requirements on the rural hospitals. It had to do with supervision. I guess those rules have been there, but they haven't enforced them. And it's increasingly hard. I was speaking to somebody who was a nurse in one of those hospitals recently.
Yes.
It's a real challenge.
Our rural hospitals are very challenged right now. And most of our graduates that go to rural areas would not go to a rural community unless it has a hospital. Similarly, the hospitals cannot exist unless they've got physicians. And so we work very closely with the Kansas Hospital Association, the Kansas Medical Society of Sedgwick County to make sure that we're providing good health care.
We're going to have the Newton guy's the new head of the hospital association.
Yes, he'll be the new president.
Medical center.
Yes.
there are challenges. Last year there were challenges on funding. I don't want to put you on any hot spots, but KU almost threw the school under the bus at one point when the state was threatening to cut money out. What is the need there, and why that need?
Right. As much fun as bringing the first 2 years to Wichita has been, we can't continue with the same funding model that we've been using. We've had funding for the third and fourth year, but with small groups, more medical students here, we need additional funding so that we can hire additional faculty, educators, because it takes time when you're doing small group teaching, for example, or problem-based learning. And so we've not seen any increase in state funding for Wichita. We've kind of done this on a shoestring, and I don't know how much longer that can be done.
Well, I was talking recently to one of our area legislators, and they said, yes, they had conveyed the message to a certain university that that was not a good idea to play that game. We used to call that murder their children when I did budgets.
Well, tuition right now for medical students at KU is $31,000 a year. That used to be as much as it was at a private school, at a Harvard or a Duke. So we have medical students coming out with debt. It's not unusual to be $150,000 to $250,000 in debt by the end of medical school, and you still have a residency.
You're making me happy that none of my 5 daughters are a doctor,
Well,
just a lawyer. That was enough.
Well, you've got tuition, you've got all the books, you have to live somewhere, which everybody does, but it's expensive to go to med school.
Well, we really have had a good time with Dr. Rick Kellerman. We thank you, and we'll see you on the next edition of KGPT's Wichita's Biz That Is.